May 23, 2017, the city of Marawi in the Philippines was alive. Students were in school, shops were opening, families were preparing lunch. But by afternoon, this normal day had turned into absolute chaos and into one of the deadliest battles in modern Philippine history. For 5 long months, government troops fought face-to-face with ISIS-inspired terrorists in an urban war unlike anything the country had ever seen. Streets once filled with children's laughter were reduced to rubble and gunfire. This is the story of the Battle of Marawi, how it started, the lives it destroyed, the bravery of soldiers and civilians, and how the city was finally liberated. It all began with a military raid in the Basak Malit area of Marawi. Intelligence reported that Isnalan Hapalon, the feared Abu Sayyaf commander and ISIS-appointed emir in Southeast Asia, was hiding in a small house. On paper, it seemed like a routine operation. Surround the safe house, capture the target, neutralize the threat. But the soldiers who stormed the building quickly realized something was terribly wrong. Instead of a handful of fighters, they were met with waves of heavy gunfire. RPGs and sniper fire rained down on them from hidden positions. Within hours, the situation spiraled. Hapalon's allies, the Mott group, had been waiting. Armed men in black, waving black ISIS flags, poured into the streets. Civilians looked on in horror as Marawi's markets, mosques, and neighborhoods were overrun. By nightfall, government troops were forced to retreat. The Philippine military had expected a quick strike. Instead, they found themselves facing a full-scale urban uprising. The next day, President Rodrigo Duterte declared martial law across the entire island of Mindanao. Decision that shocked the nation and signaled just how grave the situation had become. To understand the siege, we need to look at the group behind it. The Mott brothers Omar and Abdullah were not typical bandits. They came from a wealthy and politically connected family in Llano del Sur. They studied abroad in the Middle East, where they were exposed to extremist ideology. By the time they returned home, they had pledged loyalty to ISIS. The Mott group was more organized than most Philippine rebel factions. They recruited fighters, built bomb factories, and forged alliances with local clans. They used social media to spread propaganda, mimicking ISIS' global playbook. Their ultimate goal, to establish a caliphate in Marawi and gain recognition from ISIS Central in Syria. If they succeeded, Marawi would become the first ISIS province in Southeast Asia. When the chance came to unite with Isnalan Hapalon, they seized it. Together, Hapalon's Abu Sayyaf fighters and the Mott group set the stage for a battle that would test the Philippine military like never before. The Mott group moved swiftly. Within days, they seized key buildings, including schools, hospitals, and police stations. They raised ISIS flags on rooftops as a show of dominance. Terror followed. Shops and houses were set on fire. Civilians were taken hostage, including priests, teachers, and local officials. One of the most harrowing cases was Father Chito Sugano, a Catholic priest. He and dozens of his parishioners were captured and used as human shields. Christians caught at checkpoints faced a deadly test. Those unable to recite the Muslim Shahada were executed on the spot. Survivors later recalled the chilling fear of pretending to be Muslim just to stay alive. As the violence escalated, more than 300,000 residents fled Marawi, turning it into a ghost city almost overnight. Families who couldn't escape hid in their homes, drinking rainwater from buckets, surviving on scraps of food, and whispering prayers while bombs shook their walls. For those trapped, the sound of gunfire, mortar, and airstrikes became their daily reality. In the darkest moments, extraordinary acts of courage emerged. Some civilians formed rescue groups, sneaking into war-torn neighborhoods to help neighbors escape. Others carried the wounded on makeshift stretchers across sniper-filled streets. Muslim residents risked their lives to protect Christian friends. They taught them how to pray in Arabic, disguising them from ISIS checkpoints. In one account, a Muslim family sheltered their Christian neighbors for weeks, refusing to hand them over despite threats. On the front lines, soldiers faced a kind of war they weren't trained for. First Lieutenant Billy Codium admitted that jungle warfare was familiar to them, but Marawi was a maze of ruined buildings, sniper nests, and hidden traps. Every corner held death. Another officer, Lieutenant Geraldo Alvarez, led his men across the deadly Baloy Bridge. RPG fire pounded them. Snipers shot from rooftops. They ran out of food and water, isolated for days. Despite heavy losses, Alvarez survived and was later nominated for the Medal of Valor. These stories highlight that Marawi was not just a battle for land, but for survival itself. Some acts of heroism came at the highest cost. Take Private First Class Don Bayot, surrounded, outnumbered, and with no reinforcements in sight. Bayot made a chilling decision. He called in an airstrike on his own position. His sacrifice eliminated enemy fighters, but also claimed his life. Then there was Private First Class Henry Tenangag, who dragged wounded comrades to safety under relentless sniper fire. Even as grenades exploded around him, he refused to abandon his brothers in arms. Though mortally wounded, he carried his fallen lieutenant's body before collapsing himself. These are just two of many soldiers whose bravery echoes through the streets of Marawi. By the end of the battle, 165 government troops had been killed. Their names are carved into the nation's memory, reminders of the price of peace. The armed forces of the Philippines began regrouping with international support from the United States, Australia, and China. Technology played a key role. Drones and surveillance planes mapped enemy strongholds. Fighter jets carried out precision strikes, but the terrorists adapted. They dug tunnels beneath the city, placed booby traps inside homes, and used mosques as cover, knowing the military hesitated to bomb religious sites. Every building became a battlefield. Soldiers advanced house by house, room by room. Weeks felt like months. By September, the tide began to turn. The military retook key districts, including the Bato Mosque, where Father Cheeto and other hostages were finally freed. The liberation of the mosque marked a symbolic victory, showing that the Mott group's grip was weakening. By October, the battle had reached its climax. Intelligence revealed that both Omar Mott and Isnalan Hapalan were cornered in a heavily fortified building. On October 16, 2017, government troops launched a final assault. Explosions shook the area, and gunfire thundered through the ruins. After hours of fighting, both men were killed. Hapalan shot in the chest, Omar Mott in the head. The next day, President Duterte stood before the nation and declared Marawi liberated. A week later, the Philippine government formally announced the end of the battle. After 5 months of brutal urban combat, the Mott group was crushed, but the cost was staggering. By the end, more than 920 terrorists were killed. Alongside them, 165 soldiers and 45 civilians also lost their lives. Thousands more were wounded or traumatized. Marawi itself was devastated. Entire districts lay in ruins, collapsed roofs, charred walls, rubble as far as the eye could see. The once vibrant city was reduced to a haunting shell. But beyond the destruction was the human cost. Families returned to find homes reduced to ash. Children carried the memory of hiding in basements while bombs fell overhead. Survivors told stories of hunger, thirst, and endless fear. Rehabilitation efforts began, but progress was slow. Billions of pesos were poured into rebuilding. Yet years later, many residents still struggled to return. The Marawi Siege left scars not only on the city, but on the soul of the Philippines. It was a harsh reminder that extremism thrives where poverty and discontent exists. But it also showed the resilience of Filipino soldiers who fought to their last breath, civilians who protected neighbors of different faiths, and survivors who vowed to rebuild. The Siege of Marawi remains the longest urban battle in Philippine history. It was a battle fought with bullets and bombs, but also with sacrifice, courage, and unity. What lessons can we learn from Marawi? And how can we prevent something like this from happening again? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story powerful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of history and resilience.